welcome to another episode of Trauma to Triumph. My name is Lindley, and I'm the host. Today, we'll be talking about living on purpose. Our speaker is Brandan Steiner, who has gained success and beyond. He's the owner of the Collectible Exchange and the Steiner Agency. He's also an author. He's the author of Living on Purpose. So welcome, Brandan. How are you?
Nice to be with you today, and hello to your audience, and hello to everyone out there. Hope you're all safe.
Most of us are trained to work hard and have a good life, right? We're trained to have good grades, get to good college, get a job, climb the ladder, to be successful, to make a living, right? But more and more people are burned out, are not happy with their job. The quality of the relationship with ourselves, our family, our significant others are also diminishing. We are in search of living on purpose. Can you share with us what is the missing link here? How do we find ways to live on purpose?
That's an interesting question and a complicated one. I think the first thing is that, life is hard. I think you need to go into when you wake up in the morning and realize that life is difficult. It's not easy. And then when you hit some of these difficulties, which right now we're all hitting a lot of difficulties, it doesn't become as much of a shock. You understand that if you're in the military, you go into boot camp, it's really, really tough. You to go in there and start flipping out when the sergeant's yelling at you, doing all these exercises, because you knew before you went in that it was really difficult. So I think, part of it is just bracing yourself to understand that life is difficult, and it's always going to be difficult. There are always going to be challenges, particularly when you're trying to grow, or you're trying to, whether it's growing a family, trying to grow your career, whatever it is, you're going to have your challenges. Just because right now, and a lot of people are a little bit off track with their purpose, it doesn't mean that you don't have purpose. We all have purpose. Sometimes we get a little bit off track, and right now with so much unknown, and there is a lot of unknown with this virus about where it's going to go, what it's going to do, and how we can kind of work back to normal, so to speak. But at the end, remember, life's difficult. So the question is, how do you navigate this? And how do you find the positive? And how do you find the growth? How do you make sure you utilize your time wisely that you may not have had without the virus? Because we all have a lot more personal time without traveling as much, vacationing as much, commuting to work as much. Other things come into play. So, God has thrown a curveball here. And I think faith is a really important thing, which is sometimes, faith is the light that sometimes that exists in the dark. You got to believe in something you can't see. You got to believe that when this thing ends, you're going to come out of this stronger and better. And you got to start picturizing and dreaming a little bit about what you want things to be like when this thing kind of comes to a little bit of a normal end. Listen, finding purpose is sometimes not necessarily not having your happy day, but it's kind of taking what you've been given and making it your happy day and figuring out how to challenge yourself with what you have, as opposed to, again, it starts probably with gratitude. It starts with being grateful for what you have, not what's been taken away, and taking the opportunities that you do have and making the most of it, with gratitude, on hard work and resilience. And you'd be surprised that can lead you back on a purpose.
You're talking about faith. Can you elaborate a little about that?
Yeah, I think, faith is such an important ingredient. Sometimes people get a little bit confused with faith and religion, although, both are very healthy exercises when you decide to put them in play. But I think faith is something that, you really, when it comes down to it, you need to believe that there's a higher power, that there's something better, that, if you do all the right things and you work hard, that and you do good, that good will find you back. And I think that sometimes people misunderstand or underestimate faith until your really back is against the wall and you're in your 11th hour here. But you need to incorporate faith into your daily grind, into your daily routine. Having faith that something good is going to happen and that we're all here for a reason. And I think I put a lot of faith into, most importantly, why we're here, which is to help others and to grow. And that's where I put my faith and say, listen, if I just keep working on getting better and I keep on growing and trying to be a better person, better business person, better husband, if I put faith into knowing that when I wake up in the morning, trying to figure out how I can help someone, try to be kind and lead with empathy. I think that's really important. I think we're living in a time now where I think common sense has to be really on the top of the ladder in your thinking. And common sense is often led by empathy. Empathy is about living in another person's shoes, not getting consumed with your own shoes that you're standing in your own situation, but understanding what's going on for everyone else around you. And when you lead with empathy, you lead with gratitude because you understand what the common person is thinking. So when you lead with empathy and common sense, the two work side by side, I think it's a really good opportunity for you to understand really what's going on around you. What's great about this is when you lead with common sense and empathy, it leads you to a high level of entrepreneurism and an answer to a lot of your questions. Because that's what you really want to do is to figure out what's next and what else is out there for you. You need to be, you need to lead with empathy and common sense. And when you get into what other people are going through and you put yourself in their shoes, you'll see what's missing and you'll see where the opportunities are and it'll lead you to that. So I know it sounds a little bit simple, but I'm extremely observant person. I'm extremely, I notice everything. And I think part of that is I think I have a good amount of empathy when I look at what other people are going through, not just what I'm going through when I'm dealing with people or I'm trying to even deal with my own family, trying to figure out what's going on in their head. Most people live in their own action movie and they're pretty consumed with what's going on in their own head and what they're troubled and what they're excited or bothered by. But I think by trying to put yourself in other people's shoes is really a really key ingredient to not only having a high level of empathy, but good common sense to find yourself some new entrepreneurial trails.
That's great. Common sense and empathy. A lot of people have negativity, doesn't seem to get out of their head. So therefore, they're just in their story, like you mentioned, can't see the common sense. How do you overcome that to have a sense of who you are in order to really have common sense and empathy for others?
Well, I think a lot of times what happens is disappointment. You have expectations. You got to turn those expectations into appreciations. And I think a lot of times when you get disappointed, I thought I was going to get married this year, and now with this virus, I can't get married, or I thought I was going to be traveling, or I thought I was going to get a promotion, or I'm disappointed that my business went out. But I think we can always find appreciation and, focus on what you have and it'll lead you to having more. Focus on what you don't have and it'll lead you always to having less. And it's a very simple process, but it's very true. So, you got to be careful and not dwell on the disappointments and try to dwell on the appreciations. I think it's really, really important to understand that you have every right to be a little bit bummed out right now. I mean, there's been a huge curveball thrown at us. You're not crazy. I mean, it's difficult, man. A lot of us are home. We're trying to homeschool our kids, still work full time, put food on the table. We've had loved ones and friends get sick and die. I mean, it's pretty dramatic. I mean, you can't make believe like nothing's happened here. But I think when you get into the micro of it all, internally, when you put your head down at night, you got to make sure that you work in appreciation and gratitude and realize that our future is not fixed. So understand that, as much as you're in the moment and right now things are a little sticky or a little bit up in the air, our future is not fixed. There's still a lot of amazing things that can still happen. And I think it's really important to dream and plan out those kind of unfixed futures all the possibilities that you could have and kind of dwell a lot more on that, which is what I do. I think about what I'm going to be and where I'm going to be when this is all over, whether it be in 6 months from now or a year from now or whatever it is. I'm working towards it, so that when this is all over, I'm going to be in good shape. I have a new business that I've created, which is not easy. At 60 years old, I started a new business right in the middle of all this. Hasn't been easy. It's been really hard. People get sick. They can't come in. They can't work. Can't get answers when you want. But on the other hand, we're still open and people are still coming in. And we have a website, Collectible Exchange, which is growing and blowing up with people putting all kinds of collectibles on. And because people are home so much, what happened? They looked through all their stuff and they want to sell a lot of it. So actually, our website actually grew. which at the beginning I thought we'd be out of business, frankly. So, a lot of things can change very quickly for the good, and a lot of things can change maybe for the bad. But remember, life is tough and life is hard. So be prepared for it. Be prepared for some more tough, winding roads, but also be prepared for some really good stuff to happen. Remember, your future is not fixed.
So you said be prepared. What do you need to do to be prepared?
Well, I think the first thing we've learned right now is how important your health is. I mean, to do everything you can to avoid being compromised. I think we've learned, and we've all heard it about how important your health is, exercise, eating well. But, we don't, we know what we have to do, but we don't do it. So I think now it's been a great sign to say, hey, if you want to live a good, healthy life, you need to eat healthy, you need to sleep well, you need exercise. So at the very least, figure out how to go work that in, whether it's long walks, some jogging, really carving your diet so that you're eating well right out of the gate. Be prepared so that you can withstand potential virus or potential sicknesses that may come up, which we know when you're compromised, you're going to be in a dangerous place. I think that, learners are earners. Like, you've got to put yourself in a learning, coachable situation. With all this stuff online, it's so much you can learn through videos, classes online. Stop and use the time. Take some classes. Figure out some techniques, and figure out some traits that you can learn to make you more valuable in the marketplace. We all know there's a tremendous amount to learn with digital marketing, with editing and stuff you can do online, social media. So, listen, for some of you out there that aren't that familiar with that, now's a great time to take some of those classes. It's, whole social media and digital marketing isn't that new anymore. So there's a lot of information to learn how to market and how to promote online. And there's still a lot of people that don't have a clue what's going on with all that kind of stuff, but it's out there. So if you're home a little bit more, take some of those classes, pick up a book. Those are the kind of things you can do to prepare. And it doesn't cost a lot of money. I'm not here to tell you, if you spend all kinds of money, you can live the beautiful life. But these are things you could do very simply. Picking up some more books, or listening to some books, or watching some really good YouTube. Some of the great leaders in the world. I listen to at least a couple hours of YouTube a week of some of the smartest people. And I don't want to read a lot of books at this point. I'd rather go watch an author speak about the book on YouTube and give it to me that way. So there's so many different options of how you can learn these days. Take advantage.
Yes, agree. We learn all since we were a kid, correct, regarding obtaining a career or a job. How about personal learning? What do you think about that? What is the percentage that we need to focus on personal development?
Well, I think what happens is everybody wants to learn about how to go get their careers better. You think about it, you spend so much time learning how to get to do well in high school, then how to do well in college, and how to get your job. But it's okay to spend some time learning how to be a better spouse or a better parent. There are a lot of good books about being a better parent, which we all can learn to do, and this world can use better parenting. And there's some great books out there just on that alone. If you feel that you can be better at your job, why wouldn't you want to be the best at what you do? Why wouldn't you pick up a book of somebody that's the best at the industry that you're in? And I can't believe how many people I talk to that don't even know who the best there are in their industry. I'm like, I talked to a banking person. Who's the best banking? Why wouldn't you follow that person and learn everything there is about banking or about investment banking or about being a dentist? I mean, so I think the learning can really never stop. And I think when you're green, you're growing. You got to get green. You got to make believe that you're an 11-year-old. You got so much to learn. You can't lose the 11-year-old mindset, because when you're ripe, you're rotten. And if you just rest, you rust. I think it's just important to find I try to find learning in all the stuff. I don't want to just learn to be a smarter business person, which I spent a good amount of my life trying to do. Now I try to diversify my learning, learning how to be healthier, learning how to be a better spouse, learning how to be a better friend. I think that's a big part of what my last book is about, is not just be a person who wants to learn everything there is about business and then you suck at everything else. It's like, be a person who wants to grow in all the different aspects of your life. I don't believe in the work-life balance thing. You want to spend a little more time because you want to make a little bit more money. That's okay. But to ignore and not respect the other life pillars which is your health, family, friends, and faith, is a big mistake. So and there's a time when you have the extra time. So to not be learning, you're just rotten. You're rotting away. And like, why are you here? If you're not learning, why are you here? We're the only species that could grow. An elephant can't sit back and decide they want to get smarter and better. They've been doing the same thing for hundreds and hundreds of years, eating 17 hours, maybe having sex once in a while, and sleeping for 7 hours. I mean, you think about every species on the planet: birds, dogs, elephants, cats, ants, bugs, whatever, owls. None of them really can grow and get better. Humans are the only ones that can grow and get better. And we're built for, to deal with some of this adversity of fighting a disease or dealing with all kinds of different problems. We're built for it. That's why God put us here. And then the other thing why we're here is to help others. So if you're not helping others, if you're feeling down and you're feeling like you're a little stuck, well, get up and try to help somebody else in your community or neighborhood. Show up and then figure out how you can get better, even if it's a little bit every day.
Yeah, like you mentioned, there are a lot of resources out there right now at the tip of our hands. We can learn a lot of things. The result coming from where we need to really practice it. That's where the juice coming in. That's where the growth coming in, correct? So a lot of us learn, but we are lost because we have so much information, but we don't know how to apply it. So how did you suggest people who just learn, what do they need to move to the next step?
I think it's always important to diversify a little bit. I mean, I have a bunch of young kids that mentor me. I'm not a kid anymore, and there's a lot of stuff going on that's a little bit faster and a little bit more difficult than what I normally am used to knowing and learning about. So I have a lot of teenagers that I mentor back, and they mentor me. So diversify who you're learning from, and change your view. Move your desk around, change your view. I think learning is fascinating, and it really does keep you young. So I'm not a big reader, although I'm about to start getting into a little bit on the real estate business. So I'm starting to read a lot more about real estate. But you can pick up a lot of information from a lot of different ways in this day and age. There's so many different platforms now that you could join and learn in ways that you're more comfortable in learning. You don't have to sit in the classroom if you're not comfortable doing that. Just don't stand still. Don't sit in the corner and wait for something to happen. And then all of a sudden one day when everything kind of works its way out, you're going to be in the same place you were 2 years ago, because that's a bad decision to make, I think. But remember, just to go back to the beginning of the conversation, I'm not saying everybody's waking up and it's la, 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 la. I mean, it's hard. It really is. It's hard not being able to go out, not hard seeing your friends and going to parties or doing some of the stuff that we used to doing. But life is hard. And it doesn't mean that this is how life is going to be forever. It just means we're a little bit off track right now as a society. And doesn't mean we can't still have purpose. Doesn't mean we still can't find our way back onto that track with some good leadership and everybody cooperating. And at the same time, keep growing.
What is good leadership?
I think good leadership is convincing everyone that there's a good idea that not only will make it better for them, but better for their overall, whether it be for your company. Can you convince your company that you have an idea or a direction you want it to go in that's good for everyone? And good leadership is somebody that can also convince people to see certain things that they can't even see. And that's a lot about entrepreneurship is, can you convince, you're looking at an idea and a concept, obviously that hasn't been done. And can you lead people to believe in your concept, even though they can't see it? That's difficult. And I think leadership is something that everyone can do. Anytime anyone helps another human being is leadership. Anytime you can go and just try to make your office person sitting next to you, helping them with something, or your neighbor, that's leadership. I think anytime anybody does anything to help another person or another to make your community better, or make your company better, is leadership, especially when you're doing it without being asked.
That's back to personal development. If you will want to be a good spouse, a good parent, a good worker, whatever, you learn to be that. In terms of you want to be a good person to yourself, that will lead to good leadership, correct?
I think you want to set a good example, obviously, because you're the people you're leading a lot of times are a mirror of you. So when you're when you lead with empathy, when you lead with common sense, there's a good chance that most of the people will mirror those actions. When you're at home and you show your children enthusiasm, excitement about what you're doing, the importance of being kind and charitable, then your kids pick up on that. And that's good leadership. I think parents misunderstand the amount of leadership anytime you have a child, how much leadership is involved, and the examples that you set and what kind of impact it's going to have. I think parenting is the most difficult, most challenging job in the world, and it's by far the most important. Yet we probably don't put as much time into really thinking about the effect we're having on our kids and want to have on our kids on a day to day, because we get pretty consumed with all the accountability and just making sure everything is right on a day to day. But love and getting things right is what you show your kids, the direction you push your kids into, just by them mirroring the things that you do. So leadership is such an important thing, and I think a lot of times we sit around waiting for leadership, but we all have a button that we can press to push leadership. We all can have some leadership. Maybe some are better and bigger at leadership than others, but I think leadership is, anytime a fireman goes into a house, pulls people out and puts the fire out, I mean, that's leadership. Anytime a police officer, stops a crime or is able to stop somebody from going 90 miles an hour, that's leadership, showing people the right way to do things. And so leadership can be exerted in every industry and really can be exerted by all of us. And that's what we need right now. We need leadership. We need everyone to participate in this kind of situation that we're in now. As we can see, we're at an interesting time right now, but we need this world to get along a lot better. We need a lot more collaborative leadership where everybody steps up and everybody wants to do some stuff, not only for themselves, but for the common good. I think people misunderstand the importance of the common good, about doing stuff that's just good for the common good, not necessarily good for you. I think people underestimate that. Just my opinion.
Were you born with leadership, or are you cultivating it?
I think you can cultivate it. I think we have to impress upon in our schools a lot more the importance of leadership and the importance that everyone can exert leadership. I think there's some people that are going to take it onto themselves to learn leadership and to be more of a leader. There are some different levels and volumes of leadership that people can obtain. I think you can teach all those levels. I think all those levels is something, if you want to, you can teach yourself to be a leader and to be a better leader. But we are all in the responsibility mode of some form of leadership. So I think that we all have leadership skills inside of us, one way or the other. If you choose and you like the responsibility and accountability that comes with leadership, you can certainly go to another level. Some people opt into that, opt out of it. But I think that to avoid leadership of any kind is irresponsible. That's not why we're here. And you're wasting an amazing opportunity just to be born as a human, to be born in this universe is an incredible opportunity of what you can do. And when you think about, again, back to many other species, they can't hit that button. It's a lot harder, or almost impossible. So you're wasting an amazing opportunity of why you're here, which is, to help others and to get better.
What are the levels of leadership?
Well, I think, when you get into leadership, listen, I think, again, taking an interest in what's going on in your kid's school, or taking an interest in making sure your neighborhood is safe, or taking a leadership role even in your company where you're responsible for putting together an event once a month that collaborates everybody. Those are all micro, just being a teacher that gives a student some extra time, teach them how to read. Those are leadership. And then, listen, you have people that want to run the school. And then you have people that want to run all the Board of Education and all the education in the entire country. And you have people that want to be the president. You have people that want to be the mayor and the governors. Those are all forms of leadership. You have people that want to run the hospital, or people that want to take responsibilities. So the levels of the leadership is the leadership, but I think the levels of leadership, whether you want to be doing that full time with all of your energy and all of your skills, is the ability to turn the volume up on leadership and your ability to actually make a bigger difference if you're committed to that. I think it's all about making a difference, and I think all of it matters and all of it's important. But for some people, it's done in a smaller way. Some people want to devote their whole life and career to leadership. I've always studied management. I've always enjoyed leadership. I've always been in charge. When I worked in the kitchen, I was the leader in that kitchen, ran the kitchen back when I was a kid, ran the fraternity when I was in the fraternity. I enjoyed the leadership and management role of being responsible and accountable.
Yeah, that's great. Everything is a skill. You have to learn it and put it into practice. That's where you will gain the knowledge, the confidence in life. If we don't try enough, then we will be staying at wherever we are. So the work is in our practice, right?
Yes, I think that I've learned to be a better leader. Always studied being a leader, and just study other people's. You study other people that have done a good job in your view of being a leader. But also, I look at the leadership role as something that again goes back to accountability and responsibility. In order to be a good leader, you have to have good understanding of yourself and the way you are. This is where a lot of people struggle in leadership. You can't be telling a lot of people what to do one thing, and then you yourself is doing something completely different. So great leaders know the way they are, and they know themselves. Really important aspect. I would say that a big part of me learning how to be a better leader was learning the way I am and knowing where I've been and some of my tendencies, some of my hot buttons, and being able to see myself and know the way I manage others and knows how I manage situations, so that people are feeding off of that. So the kind of decisions you're making, the things you're doing, and why you're doing them. It's not easy. It's not easy to step outside yourself and see yourself and see the decisions you've made and why you've made those decisions.
Good leadership requires to know who you are and the way you worked. Is that something that you learn over time, or is something you just knowing?
Yeah, I think you learn over time. I think you get better at it. You take your lumps like everything else. It's learnable. It's teachable. If you want to take action, I think it helps when you make a commitment to be really extraordinary at something. It does bring on the opportunity to lead, because people will respect people that are really good at something. If you're really good at what you do, and you really believe in something that you're doing, and you believe in that what you're doing could be better, that helps. I mean, I think, people will respect you a lot more when you're committed and resilient about what it is you're trying to do. People, you don't know, it's not always about words and about actions that you ask others to take as much as the actions and the words you use yourself.
How do you get into the work that you're doing? Is there something that you really know right away you really want to do? You're good at, you're passionate about it, or just something that you cultivate over time?
I think for me, I think what happens a lot of times, you get yourself into a bunch of things, and well, this is not for me. I try to always make the most and be the best at whatever it is I was trying. And when I didn't really see the growth and the progress, or wasn't feeling like I was able to really grab on to what I was doing, I knew that wasn't going to be for me. Like, I remember when I was in high school, my friend my friend's father was a doctor, and he came to me and goes, we got to go. My dad wants me to be a doctor, and I'm going to go work in the hospital. We had a 4-on-1 program. I was like, I don't want to be a doctor. I'm like, all right, let's try it. So every day for an entire year, one day a week, we would go work in the emergency room in a really busy hospital. If you've ever seen like Grey's Anatomy, it's like that level of insanity. So, listen, I never said, well, I'm not going to ever be a doctor. I was trying to be the best. I was making me like, maybe I was on the road to being a doctor. So, I didn't know if that was going to be my calling. Maybe I got brought to the hospital for a reason. So every week we go in, and I was just curious. And I think curiosity, by the way, is such an important element to leadership and to growth that people don't talk enough about. And that was just a good example of like being in high school. Here I am in a hospital one day a week for my entire year. Could have done anything. And I said, no, I'm going to go to this emergency room. And, I'm grateful for that opportunity. It wasn't for me. I definitely knew I didn't want to go into medicine after that year, but it was a good opportunity. I put everything into it. And I've tried many different things. And that's, I think, it's really, I don't know if you have to get so hyper-focused that everything you try is going to necessarily be your future. But you go into it with your enthusiasm, energy, and curiosity. And then you can see, because that's how you build your brand and your reputation. Is, regardless of what you do, people notice when you work really hard and you're enthusiastic and curious about it. And it leads to, and usually those opportunities lead to other opportunities. You find your way. I've tried a lot of things that I didn't want to do along the way to find my way to getting in the sports business. And I knew, this is what I was meant to do, and I've done really well with it. But I tried a whole bunch of other stuff that I didn't do that well at, and I wasn't afraid to fail or put some time into that. I mean, for a long time, I thought I was going to be a chef. I worked in the kitchen for many years in high school, college, and right after college, and was completely enthusiastic. Became a really good baker and a cook. Though my kids, they don't believe that because I don't cook anymore. But I was really into it, full out. But then I realized one day, so it's not for me. I want to do something different. This is not going to work for me in the long run. I think sometimes you get into this whole predetermined, you got this checklist, you're checking boxes. Like, the only way you really know if something's for you, if you put all your effort and energy in and you try to be the best at it. And for me, I just wanted to be the best at something. I wanted to be extraordinary. I didn't want to just be successful. So when I felt like I was hitting a wall where I couldn't find the extraordinary button, I couldn't go past where I was at, sometimes that pushed me and pulled me away and said, Brandon, try something else.
That's the key. You try to do the best at what you do, whatever that is. Try enough of things that you want to do. You will immerse yourself going further to find your passion or living on purpose. But living on purpose is to do the best you can in whatever project or whatever chore you're doing. Even like clean the house, you have to do the best you can. A lot of success people try a lot of things. If you try a lot of things, you will grow in different areas. Whatever you're working at, you'll grow in that area. And that's the point of living, is to grow in different ways. You can grow as a mother, you can grow as a father, as a boyfriend, as a girlfriend, as a brother, sister, and so on, right?
I think in my last book, one of the things I really enjoyed about putting that book together was not telling people what to do, but I showed them what I did. Because I think people know, like, I got to grow, I've got to do better, I want to be the best. But how do I do that? And I think in the Living on Purpose book, particularly, and even in You Gotta Have Balls, that was my second book, I really try to explain as opposed to complain or just tell you what to do. I showed you what I did. I said, I really was not that good at this, but here's what I did to get better. And here's where I learned how to figure out how to be a better boss or a better brother or a better dad. So, and I think that's my problem with a lot of people that are out there is they tell you what to do, but they don't show you what they do. And they didn't show you what they did. And I think that's another good leadership quality, is not only to tell people what to do, but show people what to do. And I think that's missing a lot in today's leadership. There's a big gap between the people that are in the corner offices and the common regular people that are working, which I think there's a big gap between those people really understanding, again, leading with empathy. I think a lot of times the people in the corner office have lost sight of what it takes for some of these jobs to be done. And then instead of, just the 3% raise, is, spending some time with your staff, showing them how to get from point A to B, and then listening and really learning about some different aspects of the company. Because for me, I've always gotten a tremendous amount of input from all the people in my company, whether it be in the warehouse, sales, marketing. And I think good leadership is listening. And I think good leadership is not only telling people what to do, but showing people what to do.
So life is about growth, and growth is about doing, right?
Leadership is about helping people do and grow.
As we grow, there's a saying, have the end in mind, right? So my end in mind is that to be the most authentic and best version I can be. That's my end in mind of life.
What I would say is to begin is to start at the end.
I live life as a life project. So that is my end. Do you have your end in mind?
I think my end in mind is to really help at this point, besides I have a similar story to you, and is to help as many people as I can, and to, pave the road so that so many of the people that helped me get to where I am, to pave the road for some others that not have been as lucky and fortunate in their start, and to give them a boost so they can be their full potential and reach their authentic self. I'm grateful for some people that enabled me to do it. So I know the joy, and I know that it works. I'm hoping that, and I've been on this path for quite a while, which is, to do two nice things I do 2 acts of kindness every morning, try to help 2 people that don't know that I'm going to help them and expect nothing back. I've been doing that for a long time, and hope to continue that and expand that. And there's tremendous joy. I always tell people that helping people is not a burden. it's an opportunity that will lead you to share joy. I think that, me helping people go and grow and speaking I do around the country and my books, I'm hoping help people. And then I'm going to take the influence and some of the success I've had and try to pay it forward and try to help some others with it.
That's great. Yeah. So for the listener, if you are struggling with living on purpose, you can start is find your common sense and have some empathy.
And remember, we all have purpose. You just may be off track. You may have taken a detour, but we all have purpose. Not if there's someone listening who doesn't feel they have purpose, it's not true. They have purpose. It just means they may have taken a little detour off track, and that's okay. You just got to get back on track. But we all have a purpose.
Yeah. And it requires you to really reflect on yourself and then do the work that lead you to have a clear conscious of what your purpose is. You already have it. It's just that you have to reconnect it with it, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Brandan.
Thank you.
Where can people find you?
If you go to Collectible Exchange or cxstuff.com, you can get the book for free. So go to cxstuff.com and then you have to pay for shipping. I'm on LinkedIn. If you follow me on LinkedIn, I put a lot of my content up there. Or BrandanSteiner.com.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll see you guys in the next episode.